What does it truly mean when Neville Goddard says, "You never get money, you become it"? And how can this single idea unlock the invisible formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness that so many chase but few ever find? This is where it begins. Neville's words were never about money itself, but about identity, about becoming the embodiment of abundance so completely that life mirrors it back in golden reflections. This is how it unfolds. The more you try to get wealth, the more you affirm its absence. But the moment you become the feeling of wealth, the outer world bends to your assumption. This is where truth breaks through. Money flows not to effort, but to vibration, to the consciousness of one who already has it. This is why it matters, because every deposit, every opportunity, every act of love is drawn from the magnetism of being, not the mechanics of doing. This is where illusion fades. The endless striving ends when you realize that you are not trying to earn abundance. You are remembering that you already are it. This is the turning point. For as you enter the inner atmosphere of prosperity, the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness begins to operate automatically, like breath. This is how the invisible law responds. Consciousness becomes the source of every dollar, every friendship, every moment of peace, because what you accept as true within must externalize without. This is where your old self dissolves. The anxious seeker fades, replaced by one who knows the power of I am as the generator of every form. This is how imagination reclaims its throne. As Neville taught, feeling is the secret, and your assumption of already being wealthy writes the script of your world. This is where faith becomes substance, not blind belief, but the inner conviction that what you have felt real must appear. This is how transformation begins. The identity of lack dies quietly as you persist in the state of having, radiating gratitude instead of need. This is where cause and effect unite. Your thoughts cease to chase outcomes and instead vibrate as outcomes realized. This is how you step into divine rhythm. Life starts moving toward you, not away from you, because you've stopped resisting your own reflection. This is where the deeper revelation dawns, that prosperity, love, and happiness were never rewards, but states of being available now. This is how the unseen becomes visible, as your inner wealth spills into form, creating opportunities that seem almost supernatural. This is where your creative power feels undeniable, for to become wealth is to awaken to the truth that consciousness is the only currency that never depletes. This is how everything begins to align. When your feeling of having becomes stronger than your fear of lacking, reality has no choice but to comply. This is where destiny turns in your favor, for life itself recognizes the frequency of one who is abundance, not one who seeks it. This is the hidden key unveiled. You never get money, you become it. And when you live as that truth, the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness becomes your natural state of being. Can you imagine waking up one morning and realizing that your outer world has only ever been a mirror, faithfully reflecting the image you hold of yourself deep within, the one truth Neville Goddard called the root of all creation? This is where the veil begins to lift. You start to see that the lack you once blamed on circumstances was never external, but the echo of an inner belief quietly shaping your reality. This is how it unfolds. Every bank balance, every relationship, every chance encounter forms itself according to the tone of your self-concept. This is where truth becomes intimate. The formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness works not by convincing the universe to give you more, but by convincing you that you already are more. This is why it matters, because once you shift from "I want wealth" to "I am wealth," the world rearranges itself to match the vibration of your declaration. This is where the transformation begins to deepen. The outer world bends, people respond differently, and opportunities appear as if drawn by unseen magnetism. This is how the mirror principle reveals itself. You realize you can never outperform your self-image, only align with it. This is where the hidden battle ends. Trying to change conditions without changing identity is like shouting at your reflection to smile. It never works. This is how power returns to silence. The moment you feel rich, loved, and fulfilled in your imagination, the seed of that reality takes root in the unseen soil of consciousness. This is where patience transforms into certainty, because you now understand that time is not delay, but gestation. This is how the invisible becomes predictable. Wealth is no longer luck. It's law responding to your state of being. This is where self-image becomes sacred. You guard your thoughts not out of fear but reverence, knowing they sculpt the world you walk in. This is how divine alignment operates. When your inner assumption and outer action speak the same language, manifestation becomes inevitable. This is where gratitude becomes your atmosphere, not as a technique, but as the natural fragrance of someone who already has. This is how subtle magic becomes visible. As you persist in being, what you used to chase now finds you. This is where resistance fades into calm. For no one can outweigh the one who knows creation is finished. This is how your reflection stabilizes. Reality stops flickering between gain and loss because identity has anchored itself in certainty. This is where mastery begins. You no longer react to appearances, you create them. This is how the circle completes. Becoming the thing you once pursued, you realize that to get money, love, or happiness, you never needed to seek, you only needed to be. This is the hidden mirror revealed. The formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness has always been written across your own reflection, waiting for you to finally recognize yourself. Now consider this. If thought is the blueprint of creation, then feeling is the fire that brings it to life. The sacred heat that transforms invisible ideas into tangible experience, just as Neville Goddard taught when he said, "Feeling is the secret." This is where the transformation deepens. You begin to understand that the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness is not built on effort or repetition, but on the intensity and sincerity of emotion. This is how it unfolds. Feeling is the language the subconscious understands, the only vibration it translates into reality. This is where truth begins to shimmer. Every image you hold in imagination becomes alive only when it's infused with genuine sensation. This is why it matters, because a single moment of authentic inner wealth outweighs 1,000 hollow affirmations spoken in doubt. This is where cause begins to stir. When you feel gratitude before receiving, joy before proof, and abundance before evidence, you step into the realm where creation is immediate. This is how divine alchemy operates. Emotion fuses with thought to become destiny. This is where the hidden shift occurs. The seeker becomes the creator, the moment feeling and imagination merge as one. This is how power begins to hum beneath the surface. Your heartbeat syncs with the frequency of having, and life listens. This is where illusion breaks apart. Realizing that trying to get money while feeling poor only multiplies the vibration of need. This is how certainty replaces striving, as you feel wealth so vividly that the world must confirm it, because reality cannot deny what consciousness accepts as true. This is where the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness breathes with new power, no longer mechanical, but alive, responsive, and electric. This is how creation becomes intimate. As your inner world swells with gratitude, outer conditions rush to meet it. This is where the unseen becomes sensual. Every visualization becomes textured, scented, and emotionally charged until it feels inevitable. This is how your nervous system becomes an instrument of manifestation, tuned to receive only that which matches your chosen feeling. This is where resistance melts into warmth. The act of feeling wealth dissolves fear like morning sun dissolving mist. This is how you start living from the end, because when feeling precedes form, results follow like obedient shadows. This is where the real secret hides. Money, love, and happiness are not things to collect, but frequencies to embody. This is how alchemy completes its circle. You no longer need proof to believe. You believe so deeply that proof becomes irrelevant. This is the revelation unveiled. You never get money, you become the feeling of wealth itself. And in that becoming, the entire universe rearranges to honor your vibration. Suppose you discover that to truly live the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness, you must first allow the version of you who believed in struggle to die quietly, without resistance, like a shadow dissolving at dawn. This is where the inner funeral begins. Not a mourning of loss, but a liberation from the identity that once chained you to scarcity. This is how it unfolds. You start to notice that the self who complained, feared, and doubted was never truly you. It was a mask made of memory and repetition. This is where truth pierces the surface. For as long as you cling to who you've been, you block who you're becoming. This is why it matters. Because transformation demands that the old vibration fades before the new one can take root. This is where the metamorphosis starts. You stop arguing for your limitations and start speaking from your new self-concept as naturally as breathing. This is how the unseen shift gains power. What once felt like pretending becomes your new normal, and what once felt distant now feels familiar. This is where the shedding hurts. You'll feel the pull of old patterns trying to reclaim you, whispering that you're being unrealistic, that wealth and happiness are not for you. This is how courage is born. Not in loud declarations, but in quiet persistence. The unwavering decision to keep assuming your new identity, even when the world has not yet confirmed it. This is where the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness refines itself. It no longer feels like a technique, but like breathing through your new being. This is how identity becomes power. Every I am statement becomes a seed planted in consciousness, waiting to bloom and form. This is where the silence deepens. In the stillness between who you were and who you're becoming, you begin to feel divine support rearranging the unseen. This is how the invisible hands of destiny move, aligning events, people, and opportunities with your inner transformation. This is where the past loses its grip, because you no longer reference who you used to be to measure your worth. This is how rebirth happens in consciousness. The more you live from your chosen state, the more the old state forgets how to find you. This is where the turning point arrives. What was once effort now becomes nature. What was once imagined now feels inevitable. This is how the river of life begins to flow without resistance, carrying you towards circumstances that reflect your new frequency. This is where you meet yourself anew, realizing that death was only illusion and the real you had simply been asleep beneath old assumptions. This is how freedom feels. Effortless, expansive, and profoundly calm. Because nothing outside you has power anymore. This is the revelation completed. To become wealth, love, and happiness, the old self must dissolve, for only in its absence can the new you, whole, abundant, and magnetic, finally rise. Envision a world where you no longer wake up feeling the weight of what's missing, but instead breathe in the serene certainty that everything you desire is already yours, vibrating quietly in your field of being, awaiting your recognition. This is where the inner climate shifts. You move from the storm of wanting into the calm sunlight of having, and that single emotional change begins to rewrite your entire destiny. This is how it unfolds. Life starts to echo the atmosphere you carry, returning the same quality of energy you project into it. This is where truth becomes luminous. The formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness depends not on asking but assuming, not on pursuit but presence. This is why it matters, because your reality is not shaped by your goals, but by your sense of already possessing them. This is where the magnetic field strengthens. Gratitude becomes your default frequency, and from it, blessings unfold naturally, like ripples on still water. This is how the invisible current moves. The more you rest in the feeling of "it is done," the faster reality bends to confirm your inner conviction. This is where you begin to witness quiet miracles. Money, opportunities, and love start arriving unannounced, each one a reflection of your inner certainty. This is how faith stops being a struggle. It becomes the fragrance of having, not the strain of hoping. This is where peace replaces impatience, because you now understand that your assumption has already set creation in motion. This is how the unseen world rearranges itself. People you once thought distant begin aligning with your vibration, drawn by something they cannot name. This is where the atmosphere thickens with blessing. Your energy becomes a silent invitation that life cannot refuse. This is how abundance turns natural. You no longer feel the rush to manifest, for you have already become the embodiment of fulfillment. This is where thought and reality synchronize. As you feel the joy of possession, matter crystallizes around that feeling like frost forming on glass. This is how the secret matures. What once felt like imagination now feels like recognition of a truth that has always been. This is where the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness takes its purest form. The awareness of being already fulfilled is the only cause required. This is how time loses power. When you live as if it's already yours, delay becomes irrelevant, for your spirit has already arrived. This is where the soul exhales. Contentment becomes the proof of mastery. This is how destiny unfolds without force. The atmosphere of having draws every reflection of wealth and love to meet you halfway. This is the revelation realized. The richest secret of creation is not in trying to get, but in knowing you already are. And from that knowing, the entire universe rushes to agree. Think of the moment when you finally understand that belief is not a thought you repeat. It is the current that carries your entire life downstream or upstream, depending on its direction, shaping the way the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness unfolds through you. This is where it begins to hum beneath awareness. Every assumption you've ever held has been silently instructing the universe on how to treat you. This is how it unfolds. If you believe money is scarce, it hides. If you believe love is unreliable, it flees. But if you believe abundance and affection are your birthright, they appear like loyal companions returning home. This is where truth starts to glimmer. Belief is the skeleton of reality, invisible but unbreakable. This is why it matters, because even when your words say, "I am wealthy," your deeper belief may whisper, "I am not," and life always obeys the whisper, not the shout. This is where inner work becomes sacred. You begin to examine not what you wish for, but what you truly expect. This is how transformation becomes precise. Every doubt uncovered is a lock removed from the door of manifestation. This is where self-awareness becomes currency. Your beliefs form the code that activates the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is how the unseen responds. As you replace fear with certainty, the energy of creation flows unobstructed like electricity finding its path. This is where resistance once lived. Old conditioning built walls around your potential, but belief tears them down without noise. This is how quiet power emerges. When you choose new assumptions and persist until they feel natural, the universe begins to rearrange itself to honor your inner truth. This is where repetition turns into embodiment. You no longer force belief, you breathe it, live it, are it. This is how miracles disguise themselves as normal life. One opportunity, one encounter, one spark at a time, revealing that belief has been steering them all. This is where cause and effect collapse into one. For believing you have already received becomes the same as receiving. This is how the formula strengthens. Every new assumption becomes a current stronger than the last, carrying more wealth, more love, more joy toward you. This is where doubt loses authority. You realize it never had power, only your consent. This is how identity fuses with certainty. When belief and being merge, manifestation stops being a process and becomes presence. This is where you feel the pulse of creation itself. Each heartbeat echoes "I am," and those words shape the substance of your world. This is how mastery begins to hum in silence. Belief becomes your natural rhythm, your unseen music, your constant supply. This is the revelation alive within you now. You never had to fight for prosperity, love, or happiness. You only had to believe yourself into the state of already being them. Ask yourself what happens when you stop identifying with the lack story and instead assume with unwavering conviction that wealth, love, and happiness are not only possible, but already yours, flowing into your life effortlessly through the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where the shift begins. Every assumption you hold acts like a magnet, pulling circumstances, people, and events to match the reality you've accepted within. This is how it unfolds. Your inner declaration of having becomes the invisible force that shapes every visible outcome. This is where truth becomes undeniable. The universe does not negotiate, it responds. It reflects back exactly what you believe yourself to be. This is why it matters, because assuming the state of abundance is the only way to step out of struggle and into the effortless flow of receiving. This is where subtle energy gains momentum. Every repeated assumption strengthens the magnetic field around your being, aligning reality with your inner world. This is how identity becomes the lever of creation. When you assume a wealthy self, the outer world reshapes to validate that inner truth. This is where the illusion of effort fades. The harder you chase, the weaker the field. But the calmer the assumption, the stronger the attraction. This is how the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness comes alive. By living from the end, by feeling the fulfillment as though it has already arrived. This is where the invisible scaffolding of your life is revealed. Each event, each coincidence, each opportunity forms in response to your inner acceptance. This is how power moves quietly. Unseen currents guide people and circumstances to mirror your chosen state, like wind filling the sails of a ship. This is where resistance melts into alignment. You no longer fight the world, you align with yourself, and the world responds naturally. This is how anticipation transforms into certainty. The vibration of your assumption signals that manifestation is not optional but inevitable. This is where reality bends in subtle ways. Doors open, conversations shift, opportunities appear, and you recognize the signature of your inner assumption at work. This is how the magnetism of being outshines desire. Longing fades, replaced by the calm knowledge that what you have assumed must appear. This is where creation becomes effortless. You do not need to plan, struggle, or manipulate. The field does the work for you. This is how your inner life becomes the architect of outer experience. Everything you see is shaped first by what you believe yourself to be. This is where mastery reveals itself in silence. The life you once chased now chases you. This is how the rhythm of abundance becomes natural. Each day resonates with the vibration of wealth, love, and happiness. This is the revelation crystallized. By assuming who you wish to be and feeling it fully, you magnetize all that you desire, and the universe has no choice but to comply. Consider the possibility that every experience you've had with money, love, and happiness has been quietly scripted by a subconscious blueprint written long before you consciously understood life. And that this blueprint determines whether the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness operates smoothly or feels obstructed. This is where awareness awakens. The patterns of thought, habit, and expectation embedded in your subconscious have been silently shaping your reality, like an unseen architect drawing every detail of your existence. This is how it unfolds. Every belief you accept as true becomes a command to the subconscious, instructing it to assemble circumstances that mirror your inner convictions. This is where truth pierces the veil. No external advice, action, or strategy can override what your subconscious already believes about who you are and what you deserve. This is why it matters, because until you consciously rewrite these deep programs, every attempt to attract wealth, love, or happiness will be met with resistance or disappointment. This is where transformation begins to pulse. You start recognizing old scripts, the repeated failures, and the self-doubt that have quietly undermined your prosperity. This is how mastery enters the mind. By deliberately planting new assumptions and repeatedly feeling them as real, you overwrite the old blueprint. This is where the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness strengthens. The subconscious no longer reacts to outside circumstances, but obeys the inner state you consistently inhabit. This is how power becomes internalized. The more vivid and convincing your inner assumption, the faster it translates into outer experience. This is where limitation dissolves. Fears, doubts, and negative memories lose their hold as your chosen feeling anchors your new reality. This is how alignment becomes magnetic. The subconscious now interprets every event, conversation, and opportunity as confirmation of your inner wealth. This is where subtle miracles emerge. Doors you didn't see before now swing open, ideas flow effortlessly, and support appears as if by instinct. This is how creation accelerates. You are no longer negotiating with chance, but commanding the rhythm of life itself. This is where identity consolidates. The version of you who knows abundance replaces the version of you who feared lack. This is how the hidden law asserts itself. Everything you imagine and feel becomes inevitable, because the subconscious no longer differentiates between reality and assumption. This is where the formula matures. You move with effortless certainty, knowing that wealth, love, and happiness are natural extensions of your being. This is how invisible currents become your allies. Every thought, every emotion, every assumption channels creation in your favor. This is where clarity arrives. The blueprint is rewritten, and your world begins to reflect the new script. This is how mastery feels tangible. As your outer life mirrors your inner richness, the proof of your subconscious work manifests continuously. This is the revelation crystallized. The only reason you ever lacked was the blueprint you carried, and by becoming aware and revising it, You now embody the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness fully and effortlessly. Picture for a moment that you stop chasing outcomes, stop begging for proof, and instead begin living from the end, experiencing the reality you desire as if it has already arrived. And instantly the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness starts orchestrating events around you. This is where the shift deepens. By imagining and feeling the state of having already achieved wealth, love, or joy, you send a signal to the universe that creation is complete. This is how it unfolds. Every act, decision, and thought aligns with the assumption that your desires are fulfilled, and circumstances begin to conform naturally. This is where truth becomes intimate. Reality cannot distinguish between what you truly live and what has already manifested in your consciousness. This is why it matters, because the faster you embody the end, the faster your inner state translates into outer conditions. This is where power hums beneath the surface. For living from the end transforms desire into certainty and resistance into effortless flow. This is how the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness shows its elegance. No longer a set of instructions, but a living practice of being. This is where patience and timing lose their sting. The world bends in response to your assumption, not to your calendar or plan. This is where doubt finds no foothold. The certainty of already having leaves no space for questioning. This is how identity anchors. The more vividly you imagine the end, the more real it becomes, and the old self fades. This is where action becomes natural. Each step you take flows from the reality you inhabit internally rather than from external pressure. This is how unseen guidance emerges. Ideas, opportunities, and synchronicities appear as if the universe itself conspires in favor of your inner conviction. This is where miracles feel ordinary. Events that once seemed improbable become commonplace because you live from the reality they belong to. This is how joy and gratitude amplify. By living in the end, your inner abundance multiplies, attracting more of the same. This is where the subconscious obeys without hesitation. It recognizes the end as already accomplished and arranges all conditions accordingly. This is how flow replaces struggle. Circumstances now reflect your inner state rather than your outer striving. This is where self-trust solidifies. Your inner knowing becomes the compass guiding all manifestation. This is how clarity meets action. You no longer question or chase, you act from the reality already experienced within. This is where freedom feels effortless, for living from the end eliminates lack and impatience from the equation. This is the revelation fully realized. By becoming the end yourself, you align perfectly with the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness, and life moves to meet you as if it were predestined to do so. Now consider this. The simple yet profound practice of gratitude is far more than politeness or habit. It is a potent force that amplifies the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness, transforming your inner state into a magnet that draws circumstances to match. This is where it begins to radiate. Every heartfelt acknowledgement of what you already have sends ripples through your subconscious, signaling that abundance is not distant, but present. This is how it unfolds. Gratitude turns perception into creation, reframing what once seemed insufficient into a seed of fulfillment. This is where truth becomes tangible. The more you feel thankful in the present moment, the more the universe mirrors that vibration back into form. This is why it matters, because without gratitude, the formula for prosperity, love, and happiness remains dormant, unactivated by the energy of recognition. This is where alignment strengthens. Your emotional field resonates with what you claim, drawing more situations, people, and opportunities into harmonious synchrony. This is how the unseen responds. Every acknowledgement of sufficiency multiplies your inner wealth, shaping your outer circumstances with subtle precision. This is where resistance softens. Longing and fear dissolve in the warmth of appreciation, clearing space for flow. This is how identity deepens. Living in gratitude rewires your sense of self to one who already is abundant, lovable, and joyful. This is where magnetism grows. The more consistently you inhabit this state, the more effortless the manifestation of desires becomes. This is how life begins to conspire in your favor. Doors, relationships, and resources appear aligned, drawn by your inner resonance. This is where patience and timing find ease. Gratitude removes the tension of waiting because fulfillment is recognized as already present. This is how belief solidifies. Every expression of thanks reinforces the assumption that prosperity, love, and happiness are inseparable from your being. This is where imagination merges with reality. Visualizing and feeling abundance while practicing gratitude accelerates manifestation. This is how the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness thrives. The inner state becomes a living current, unseen but undeniably powerful. This is where perception transforms, lack fades into recognition, need becomes desire fulfilled, and absence becomes remembered abundance. This is how subtle miracles feel natural. Life flows in alignment with the thankful vibration you cultivate daily. This is where identity becomes seamless. Being grateful cements the consciousness of already having, making external proof unnecessary. This is how the invisible hand guides. Every circumstance arranges itself to honor your inner gratitude. This is the revelation embraced. By consistently feeling and expressing gratitude, you anchor yourself as the embodiment of prosperity, love, and happiness, and the universe moves to reflect that state in every dimension of your life. Envision a life where faith is not mere hope or wishful thinking, but an unshakable inner knowing that everything you desire, wealth, love, happiness, is already yours, vibrating through the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness like a silent, unstoppable current. This is where certainty takes root. The moment you stop questioning and begin trusting the unseen, the universe begins to act as your invisible ally. This is how it unfolds. Faith bridges the gap between imagination and manifestation, turning inner assumption into outer reality. This is where truth illuminates. You realize that nothing outside you can add to what your consciousness has already declared true. This is why it matters, because without faith, the formula remains theoretical and your desires remain suspended in possibility rather than realized. This is where power becomes effortless. Faith transforms patience into calm expectation, dissolving anxiety and resistance. This is how the unseen aligns with you. Circumstances, people, and opportunities respond to the certainty radiating from your inner state. This is where identity consolidates. The self who trusts becomes the self who receives, fully synchronized with the rhythm of creation. This is how obstacles dissolve. Challenges are no longer threats, but signals guiding you toward deeper alignment with your assumed state. This is where the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness strengthens. Faith activates its power, making inner conviction a living force in your life. This is how energy flows freely. Every thought and feeling resonates with the certainty of fulfillment, creating a magnetic field that attracts corresponding realities. This is where doubt loses its grip, for faith has already claimed what the mind cannot yet see. This is how creation accelerates. Ideas, resources, and opportunities converge naturally, drawn by the vibration of your inner knowing. This is where patience becomes a quiet joy. Waiting is replaced by the peace of already having. This is how imagination and feeling fuse. The vivid image of your desires combined with unshakable faith forms an invisible blueprint that reality cannot resist. This is where mastery of consciousness deepens. You understand that faith is not passive, but the active energy that powers manifestation. This is how your life begins to flow. The world bends, not in struggle, but in effortless compliance with your inner state. This is where abundance becomes undeniable. Wealth, love, and happiness emerge naturally as expressions of your faith. This is how the formula comes alive. Faith transforms mere desire into living experience. This is the revelation complete. By embodying unwavering faith, you no longer chase, you no longer wait. You simply become the magnet that draws all prosperity, love, and happiness towards you. Suppose you discover that the universe is not random, but governed by invisible laws that respond with absolute precision to the state of your consciousness, and that these laws are the mechanism behind the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where the realization begins. Every thought, feeling, and assumption acts as a command, quietly orchestrating the events that unfold in your life. This is how it unfolds. Your inner state determines the outer response, and the more consistent your vibration, the faster reality aligns with your chosen identity. This is where truth asserts itself. Nothing in your experience occurs outside the influence of these unseen laws. Circumstances are never accidents, but reflections of your inner state. This is why it matters, because mastery of these laws allows you to stop struggling and start co-creating, turning life into a deliberate reflection of your imagination. This is where awareness deepens. The more you notice the synchronicities, coincidences, and luck that arrive when you embody abundance, the more you understand that you are the cause, not the effect. This is how power manifests invisibly. The universe responds to being, not to effort, meaning every inner adjustment has an immediate, though sometimes subtle, impact. This is where the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness gains momentum. The energy of your assumptions aligns every element in your life toward fulfillment. This is how resistance fades. The laws of consciousness cannot be bent by fear, doubt, or impatience, only aligned with. This is where miracles feel natural. As you persist in the state of having, the external world begins to mirror your internal reality almost instantaneously. This is how mastery unfolds. By recognizing and respecting these laws, you act in harmony rather than in conflict with life itself. This is where timing becomes effortless. You no longer force outcomes, but let the natural unfolding occur in perfect sequence. This is how your identity anchors. The more you embody the state of already being wealthy, loved, and joyful, the more automatic the universe's response becomes. This is where creation flows. Ideas, opportunities, and synchronicities converge with uncanny precision, drawn by the invisible currents of your consciousness. This is how subtle energy becomes tangible. Your thoughts and feelings create a magnetic atmosphere that life cannot ignore. This is where clarity sharpens. You see that every lack was a signal to adjust your inner state, not a punishment or limitation. This is how alignment becomes effortless. Once you trust the laws, you act naturally in accordance with the reality you wish to live. This is where the formula matures. It is no longer a practice, but a way of being. This is how destiny moves to meet you. Every outer event now serves the inner story you consistently tell. This is the revelation revealed. By understanding and living in harmony with the invisible laws, the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness becomes unstoppable, turning you into the embodiment of abundance itself. Think of the moment when you realize that imagination is not just fantasy, but the sacred language through which reality itself is written, and that every scene you vividly experience in your mind communicates to the universe exactly what you intend to create through the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where creation begins. The images you dwell upon, the sensations you allow yourself to feel, and the stories you tell internally all serve as commands shaping your outer world. This is how it unfolds. Imagination becomes the blueprint, and feeling is the force that turns the blueprint into tangible experience. This is where truth takes form. The external world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting what your imagination holds as real. This is why it matters, because the one who imagines wealth, love, and joy with conviction becomes the invisible architect of life's circumstances. This is where mastery grows. Consistent use of imagination aligns your consciousness with the state of already having, activating the unseen mechanisms of creation. This is how the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness manifests. Your internal scenes magnetize events, opportunities, and people to confirm the reality you have assumed. This is where doubt begins to fade. When your imagination is vivid and emotionally charged, resistance from the old self cannot survive. This is how power takes root. The subconscious obeys what is felt and imagined, translating internal visions into external realities. This is where alignment becomes visible. Every action, encounter, and chance event starts appearing as a natural extension of your inner story. This is how the unseen works quietly. Imagination, coupled with feeling, becomes the invisible hand moving circumstances into perfect harmony with your state. This is where identity strengthens. As you persist in imagining yourself as prosperous, loving, and joyful, your sense of self reshapes to match your inner assumptions. This is how miracles begin to feel inevitable. Situations you once thought impossible begin unfolding seamlessly. This is where perception transforms. Reality stops being something you react to and starts being something you consciously design. This is how the formula matures. Imagination is no longer escapism, but a direct channel for manifesting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where creation flows naturally. Every vivid scene backed by feeling draws the universe into alignment with your inner state. This is how subtle influence becomes irresistible. Your internal world becomes the law that shapes the external one. This is where timing and patience dissolve. Imagined reality cannot be delayed because it is already alive in consciousness. This is how freedom feels tangible. The world conforms not to your struggle but to your assumed vision. This is the revelation revealed. By mastering imagination as the primary language of reality, you become the living embodiment of the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness, and life rearranges itself to reflect that truth at every turn. Envision a world where wealth is not merely counted in coins or numbers, but felt as a vibration, a frequency that pulses through every cell of your being, aligning effortlessly with the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where the awareness begins. You start to feel that abundance is not outside of you, but a state you inhabit, and the world mirrors that vibration back with perfect fidelity. This is how it unfolds. The richer your internal frequency, the more naturally opportunities, money, and love flow into your life without struggle. This is where truth becomes palpable. External wealth cannot exist apart from the internal resonance that calls it into form. This is why it matters, because your daily emotional and mental state dictates the quality of reality you experience, and mastery of vibration accelerates manifestation. This is where power emerges. By consistently raising your inner vibration to match prosperity, you become a living magnet for all that aligns with abundance. This is how the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness operates. It responds to the signal of your being, not the size of your bank account or external effort. This is where limitation fades, resistance and lack dissipate as your consciousness vibrates in alignment with plenty. This is how subtle energy becomes tangible. A single shift in feeling can redirect the flow of circumstances toward the reality you desire. This is where identity strengthens. The self who vibrates as wealthy naturally acts, thinks, and feels in ways that invite prosperity to consolidate. This is how miracles unfold. Synchronicities, fortuitous encounters, and unexpected opportunities emerge as direct responses to your internal frequency. This is where doubt weakens. No outer circumstance can override the persistent resonance of your inner abundance. This is how creation becomes effortless. Your life begins to move as if on rails, guided by the unbroken signal of your assumed state. This is where patience transforms into certainty. Time no longer controls your experience, for the vibration of wealth already exists in your consciousness. This is how alignment accelerates. Every choice, interaction, and event falls into place naturally, harmonizing with your energetic signature. This is where subtle magnetism becomes powerful. People and situations begin seeking you as a reflection of the wealth you already embody. This is how joy amplifies. The higher your vibration, the more effortless and pleasurable the manifestation of prosperity, love, and happiness becomes. This is where freedom emerges. No longer bound by struggle, you live in the effortless flow of creation. This is the revelation realized. By maintaining the vibration of wealth within, you stop chasing and start becoming, and the universe rearranges itself to match your state of abundance completely. Ask yourself what happens when you continue assuming, feeling, and living as if you already possess wealth, love, and happiness, even when the outer world has yet to confirm it, and you realize that persistence is not stubbornness, but the art of aligning fully with the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where endurance becomes your secret weapon. The outer world may lag behind, but your inner state cannot be denied when maintained with unwavering consistency. This is how it unfolds. Each repetition of feeling, imagining, and assuming strengthens the invisible current that pulls circumstances toward your inner reality. This is where truth asserts itself. Reality cannot resist a consciousness that consistently insists on its own fulfillment. This is why it matters. Because fleeting belief produces fleeting results, but persistent embodiment of your desired state transforms the very fabric of your life. This is where resilience shines. Challenges, delays, or setbacks become minor ripples against the vast ocean of your inner certainty. This is how mastery deepens. By refusing to return to old patterns of doubt, You allow the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness to operate without interruption. This is where momentum builds. The longer you sustain the state of already having, the more effortless manifestation becomes, as if the universe itself grows accustomed to your vibration. This is how alignment becomes unstoppable. Events, people, and opportunities naturally converge in response to your unwavering inner assumption. This is where inner power consolidates. You realize that persistence is not about effort, but about continuity of state, a quiet, unwavering presence that no outer circumstance can dislodge. This is how subtle miracles accelerate. The longer you maintain the feeling of having, the faster external proof appears, often in ways you never anticipated. This is where identity solidifies. The persistent self who assumes abundance becomes the permanent version of who you are. This is how the unseen becomes active. The law of assumption responds continuously, sculpting reality in perfect harmony with your sustained state. This is where doubt loses traction. Persistence converts belief into certainty that cannot be shaken by appearances. This is how creation flows. Circumstances bend, align, and consolidate around the consciousness that never wavers. This is where patience and timing dissolve. The universe cooperates seamlessly with a mind that refuses to give up its inner conviction. This is how energy becomes unstoppable. Persistence is the force that transforms imagination into enduring reality. This is where freedom manifests. No longer chasing or hoping, you remain rooted in the state of already having. This is the revelation embraced. By mastering persistence, you become the embodiment of wealth, love, and happiness. And the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness operates in full, unbroken power around you. Envision a moment where you stop resisting and start receiving fully, understanding that the universe is not withholding but constantly offering, and that the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness functions effortlessly when you align with the natural flow of giving and receiving. This is where the shift begins. You recognize that scarcity is not reality, but a blockage caused by refusal to accept what is already yours. This is how it unfolds. The more you allow yourself to feel worthy of abundance, the more life pours wealth, love, and joy into your experience without struggle. This is where truth becomes tangible. Receiving is not passive. It is a conscious state of openness that signals the universe to respond. This is why it matters. Because desire alone cannot manifest, it must be paired with the readiness to accept what is being delivered. This is where alignment strengthens. Gratitude and expectation create a field where opportunities, resources, and relationships flow naturally. This is how the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness thrives. By embodying the state of receptivity, you activate the unseen mechanisms of manifestation. This is where resistance fades. Fear of loss, self-doubt, or hesitation no longer impede the delivery of abundance. This is how energy becomes magnetic. The more open and accepting you are, the stronger the pull of prosperity, love, and happiness toward you. This is where identity consolidates. The self who receives without question aligns fully with the consciousness of already having. This is how miracles feel effortless. Gifts, opportunities, and synchronicities arrive in perfect timing, often beyond imagination. This is where creation becomes fluid. You move with life instead of against it, and circumstances bend to match your inner state. This is how subtle guidance becomes visible. Intuitions, insights, and nudges appear to direct you toward favorable outcomes. This is where abundance multiplies. Each act of receiving strengthens the field that generates more of the same. This is how inner harmony flourishes. The flow of giving and receiving becomes a natural rhythm, effortless and continuous. This is where faith and expectation unite. Trusting that what is meant for you is already yours accelerates manifestation. This is how joy becomes a constant companion. The simple act of allowing abundance creates a cascade of happiness. This is where power becomes effortless. You no longer chase or force, you merely align with the flow of life. This is how mastery of consciousness manifests. The state of receiving fully becomes the vehicle for wealth, love, and happiness. This is the revelation embodied. By embracing the science of receiving, you allow the universe to deliver your desires unhindered, and the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness operates at its fullest capacity in your life. Now consider this. There is a belief deeper than thought or feeling, one that silently operates beneath your conscious mind, guiding every outcome without your noticing. And it is this implied belief that ultimately powers the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where awareness expands. Even when you think you are imagining wealth or love, your subconscious silently confirms whether you truly feel deserving and capable of receiving it. This is how it unfolds. Every assumption you carry, even unspoken or unnoticed, acts as a command to life, dictating the quality and speed of manifestation. This is where truth surfaces. Conscious effort cannot overcome a subconscious script. Only alignment with your deeper belief can. This is why it matters, because the universe responds to what you are internally, not what you wish to appear externally. This is where transformation becomes precise. By uncovering and rewriting hidden doubts and limiting convictions, you activate the full power of your imagination and feelings. This is how the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness manifests. Implicit belief ensures that every imagined scene, every emotional charge, and every assumption resonates authentically within, creating irresistible attraction. This is where resistance dissolves. Old conditioning loses its grip as the deeper mind accepts the new state as reality. This is how your inner life gains sovereignty. The more consciously you cultivate implied belief, the more the outer world becomes obedient to your inner commands. This is where magnetism intensifies. Every person, opportunity, and event begins to respond to the authentic frequency of your being. This is how synchronicity flourishes. Unnoticed currents of alignment appear, creating effortless openings and fortuitous encounters. This is where identity solidifies. The self who believes deeply and without hesitation becomes the version of you that the world cannot contradict. This is how miracles feel natural. The unseen mechanisms of life respond to inner conviction faster than conscious reasoning can follow. This is where certainty replaces striving. Action becomes effortless, guided by invisible confirmation. This is how abundance becomes habitual. The more your implied belief matches the desired state, the more life reflects it automatically. This is where patience transforms into calm assurance. You no longer wait anxiously, for internal alignment guarantees external response. This is how mastery reveals itself. By attending to the subtle layers of belief, you command reality with elegance and power. This is where creation flows continuously. Your inner convictions orchestrate every event, circumstance, and opportunity. This is where life itself becomes proof. The alignment between implied belief and outer reality validates your inner authority. This is the revelation unveiled. By mastering implied belief, you fully embody the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness, and life responds as a mirror to the state you quietly but powerfully assume. Envision a state where action is no longer frantic or forced, but emerges naturally from your inner assumption, where doing flows effortlessly from being, and every movement aligns with the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where the subtle shift occurs. The outer world no longer requires struggle or planning because your consciousness has already assumed the reality you desire. This is how it unfolds. Inspired action arises spontaneously, perfectly timed, guided by the currents of your inner state rather than by external pressure. This is where truth becomes apparent. The less you chase, the more the universe delivers, responding to the signal of having rather than the demand for results. This is why it matters, because effort without alignment produces only friction, whereas alignment without force produces miracles. This is where power hums quietly. Every choice, word, and step now vibrates in harmony with abundance, love, and happiness. This is how the formula manifests. Actionless manifestation is the result of complete inner conviction, allowing reality to shape itself around you. This is where resistance dissolves. The old tension between desire and lack vanishes, leaving only smooth unfolding. This is how identity strengthens. You no longer identify with struggle, but with the effortless arrival of all that you have imagined. This is where synchronicity thrives. People, circumstances, and opportunities converge naturally, as if drawn by an invisible choreography. This is how timing becomes irrelevant. The universe aligns with your inner state instantaneously, and the illusion of waiting disappears. This is where miracles feel ordinary. Life appears seamless, because your inner world has already commanded the outcome. This is how mastery deepens. You trust your assumptions so fully that every action is guided by intuition and ease. This is where joy multiplies. The act of being fully aligned brings pleasure and fulfillment independently of external proof. This is how energy becomes magnetic. Your effortless state attracts everything that matches your vibration without coercion. This is where patience transforms. Stillness and expectation merge into confident knowing. This is how freedom manifests. There is no struggle, no forcing, only graceful participation in life's unfolding. This is where creation flows naturally. Your assumed reality acts as a magnet, calling all circumstances into alignment. This is where power is embodied. By living in this effortless flow, you become the living formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness. This is the revelation realized. By mastering actionless manifestation, you no longer chase, push, or compel, but allow life to move in perfect resonance with your inner state, producing abundance, love, and happiness effortlessly and continually. Ask yourself what happens when you realize that everything around you, every person, event, and circumstance, is a perfect reflection of your inner state, and that the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness functions through this mirror of reality. This is where perception shifts. You begin to see that outer lack, conflict, or delay is never the cause, but the reflection of an unaligned inner assumption. This is how it unfolds. By correcting the inner state, by consistently assuming wealth, love, and happiness as your natural condition, the external world begins to mirror that alignment seamlessly. This is where truth becomes undeniable. The universe cannot lie. It reflects back precisely what you carry within. This is why it matters, because any attempt to change circumstances without changing your inner state is like painting over a reflection. You see no lasting transformation. This is where power consolidates. Understanding that reality is a mirror allows you to focus inward, where change is both permanent and effortless. This is how the formula manifests. Your inner feelings, beliefs, and assumptions act as the sculptor of life, shaping outer events to match your consciousness. This is where resistance fades. Outer obstacles lose significance once you recognize them as mirrors rather than barriers. This is how alignment becomes magnetic. People, resources, and opportunities appear as reflections of the state you have cultivated internally. This is where miracles reveal themselves. Coincidences, serendipities, and fortunate turns are simply the mirror confirming your inner truth. This is how identity strengthens. By seeing yourself as the source, you embody wealth, love, and happiness rather than pursuing them externally. This is where clarity emerges. You no longer measure life by appearances, but by the fidelity of the reflection to your inner state. This is how creation accelerates. The mirror responds instantaneously, providing feedback that allows you to fine-tune your consciousness. This is where subtle currents align. Every thought, feeling, and assumption resonates outward, shaping the reality that gazes back at you. This is how joy deepens. As the reflection shifts, your internal satisfaction grows, confirming your power to shape life. This is where the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness becomes effortless. Reality itself acts as a faithful servant to your inner state. This is how patience transforms into knowing. Delays are no longer frustrating but diagnostic, signaling areas that need realignment. This is how abundance becomes obvious. When the mirror finally reflects your chosen state, wealth, love, and happiness appear as natural extensions of being. This is where mastery is revealed. By living as the source, you command the reflection, and life conforms without struggle. This is the revelation realized. By understanding that the world is your mirror, you no longer chase, you no longer plead. You simply become the state you wish to see, and the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness manifests continuously, flawlessly, and effortlessly. Envision a moment where all lessons converge, where you no longer think, wish, or hope for prosperity, love, and happiness, but instead become them, fully inhabiting the state that the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness has been guiding you toward all along. This is where culmination begins. Every practice, every assumption, every persistent feeling now merges into the living embodiment of your desires. This is how it unfolds. Your identity is no longer separate from abundance. It vibrates as wealth, radiates love, and resonates with joy in every thought, word, and action. This is where truth becomes undeniable. When you are the state, the outer world becomes a mirror, perfectly reflecting your inner reality without delay or distortion. This is why it matters, because only by being what you seek can manifestation become effortless, continuous, and inevitable. This is where power saturates every moment. Your energy is magnetic, attracting circumstances, opportunities, and people that naturally align with your state of being. This is how mastery is revealed. The formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness is no longer a method, but a lived experience flowing through every part of you. This is where resistance dissolves. Lack, fear, and doubt vanish because they no longer resonate with who you have become. This is how synchronicity accelerates. Life conspires in your favor, presenting evidence of abundance at every turn. This is where clarity sharpens. The line between imagination and reality blurs, as the world now obeys your inner state with precision. This is how joy multiplies. The happiness that comes from embodying love and wealth is self-sustaining, radiating outward and returning in greater measure. This is where freedom is fully realized. You move through life unbound by scarcity, limitation, or external expectation. This is how creation flows effortlessly. Every thought, feeling, and interaction now acts as a natural extension of your abundant being. This is where identity and manifestation fuse. Who you are and what you have desired are one and the same. This is how subtle power becomes tangible. Your presence alone commands alignment with prosperity, love, and happiness. This is where patience becomes instantaneous. Waiting loses meaning because your state is already the reality. This is how life itself feels enchanted. Each day unfolds as a seamless reflection of your inner embodiment. This is where the formula reaches perfection. No technique, no effort, no striving is needed, for you are the living proof. This is how the universe honors you. It moves to accommodate the fullness of your assumed state with grace and precision. This is the final revelation. By fully becoming the wealth, love, and happiness you desire, you unlock the ultimate truth. You never get money, you become it. And in that becoming, the formula for attracting prosperity, love, and happiness manifests eternally and effortlessly in every dimension of your life.